Hey guys, Sonyx here. Before we get started, I want to say huge thanks to EA and the Creator Network for inviting me to test this update early. Let's break down everything you need to know. Now, as many of you know, audio is one of the biggest issues in Apex Legends since the start of the game. You ever feel like you're fighting someone and then before you know it, someone sneaks up right behind you and you didn't hear those footsteps at all? Well, guess what? Very soon an update will come and fix all those audio issues for you and even make this game feel like brand new again. In fact, you'd think this would just be one simple fix, right? No, there are 5 main ways that they're going to improve audio in Apex, and I'll break these down right now. Now, the first awesome change is in audio, they're actually going to have a new little section here to change your mix. Yeah, it's going to be an updated mixing section. So essentially, they're going to have the old option, which is the Apex we play now. It's going to be called the original mix, and then they're going to have a new one called Focus Mix. Now, this is really cool because this one essentially just makes everything way easier. So your weapon and ability sounds are much quieter now. So obviously, when you shoot your weapon, you feel like, oh wait, that's too loud. You have to turn down your master volume, right? And then now you have to, it feels like, whoa, you can't hear anyone out. So they're going to turn down your weapon and ability sound so that way it doesn't distract you. Your squad mate footsteps are also entirely removed. So you ever run with your teammate and you feel like, well, I can hear my partner's footsteps here really, really loud. And then you for some reason, the enemy's footsteps are much quieter. So basically you can essentially remove your squad mate's footsteps. It's really not necessary to hear those. And the enemy footsteps are much louder. So you can actually hear the enemy's footsteps like just that much louder. So that way, every time you're in a corner, you're going to hear those footsteps no matter what. And it gets louder, especially if they're sprinting or jogging. So now it's dependent on their actual movement. So these little changes to having a focus mix is really, really powerful. And it's actually going to be the default setting that's going to be in Season 27. So you don't really have to change anything. You're going to feel the difference once the new season launches. Now, the second awesome change is a threat system. Now, this is really cool because this is all proximity dependent. Let's just say you are fighting this guy, right? He's that much closer to you than this guy. So that guy's like, everything about this dude is going to get turned up versus this guy because this is the immediate threat right now. Also, what's really cool is that it's actively changing. Obviously, your line of sight is a really big thing. So if you're looking at this guy, that's going to be the priority now. Obviously, this guy's closer, so there's a whole algorithm about it. It's insane. Like if you look at this graph, it's actively changing across the board mid-game. Like in the middle of the game, it's actively changing the different threats to match exactly what's more important than what is not. So right now this guy might be the threat, and then in a second this guy might be the threat, so that guy's going to be a little bit louder. So it's actively shifting the volume levels. It's turning things up of what is really important, but at the same time it's actually turning things down that aren't important as well. So for example, let's just say something crazy, right? Let's just say your teammate for some reason you're fighting this team, obviously, and then this guy over here decides to request for a backpack or grenade, just random stuff, right? He needs ammo or something. That might affect your audio because you're going to hear teammates getting kind of like non-combat voice lines, right? So it's going to turn down non-combat voice lines while you're in a possible threat situation. So random voice lines are going to get turned down, and the actual threat of what's around you is going to get turned up. Really, really cool stuff. So take a look at this video, and the red shows the actual current threats. Yellow is semi-threats, and the whites are basically non-existent. So this graph is perfect because it's actively showing what's shifting and what's not. Now, the third awesome change is called the Multiband Sidechain Compression. Now, it sounds complicating, and it kind of is, but I'll break it down in a way that's really, really easy to understand. Now, if you love music, they actually use these multi-chain compressions a lot. For example, a kick drum and a bass guitar are both low-end frequencies. So what happens is that they'll tend to clash a lot because they're playing at the same time. Now, if you don't have any of these compressions, essentially what will happen is they'll kind of be really muddy sounding because they're overlapping on each other. They don't have their own space. Now, if a song has a really nice sidechain compression, what will happen is that you have that bass guitar kind of just hanging out, and then every time the kick drum comes in, the bass guitar kind of hides a little bit, creates a little pocket for that really low-end frequency that they're both matching, and then it'll come back in to fill in the space after the kick drum has already kind of done its job. That's the same thing with Apex. Let's just say this guy's walking, right? You hear him? Okay, he's walking. Not bad. You can hear his footsteps, hopefully a little bit better with all the other stuff that's changing. But it's kind of like, mid-range. I don't know the exact frequencies of these. But what happens is that, let's say I pop this. Obviously, there's a lot of frequencies here that are also matching these guys' footsteps as well. I can't hear that at all. It masks it. You ever find yourself in game using any of your abilities and it completely all these footsteps go away? That's exactly what's happening. All the different abilities, not even that, like even Fuse, for example, is a great one, because Fuse has these knuckle clusters, which completely remove. Completely, I don't hear any of those at all. We can even put those further out, and I barely hear it. And that one was way further than, you know, these guys' footsteps. So what it's doing is that these different legend abilities like this Fuse or the Mad Maggie or pretty much anything in the game like grenades, explosions, they're masking the footsteps themselves because the primary frequencies are kind of covering everything. You know, you're not going to hear a Fuse knuckle cluster all the time, but once it does, it masks these completely, which is the most essential part because you use abilities during fights and you need to hear footsteps during fights. So what they're doing with the sidechain compression is going to be super, super cool, because what'll happen is that this will be much quieter, and then this is going to be turned up. Now, Sonic, this sounds kind of complicating. Is there any way that you can show me what it actually looks like? Yeah, I definitely wanted to make a graph because it sounds complicating, and compressions are complicating, but I wanted to kind of really break it down in a really, really easy way. And this is the kind of two graphs I made. So here's the before sidechain compression. As you can see, the red line here is the explosions, and the orange line here is just footsteps. Footsteps don't change in volume. You know, maybe if you get closer to someone, it's going to change a little bit. But the red, obviously, you're not going to have explosions all the time, but see that little jump? It's going to completely overtake the footsteps line. You're not going to hear those footsteps at all because that explosion is going to go super, super loud, and then it's going to drop back, and then you're going to hear the footsteps again, right? Now, this is before sidechain compression occurs. See how the explosions overlap. Now look at the graph after the sidechain compression hits. See how much more powerful this is? The blue line is now the explosions with the sidechain compression, and then the orange line still is the footsteps. Every time an event occurs, like an explosion or a legend ability that's really loud that can mask the frequencies of the footsteps, it ducks down now. And it makes the footsteps that much louder. It doesn't even really turn up the footsteps, but it just makes it audible that it sounds like it's being turned up. So it just masks it. It doesn't completely get rid of the actual explosions. It just muffles it so that you can hear the more important things, which are enemy footsteps. See how much more powerful that is? So let's see that in action. This is before using any compression. And this is after using sidechain compression. Really, really powerful stuff. Now, the fourth awesome change is called environmental audio processing. Now, this is really, really awesome because they're making the game feel that much more realistic. And there's a lot of benefits to this as well. Now, in Apex, there's a lot of outdoors. There's a lot of indoors. You're going in and out of, buildings a lot. There's two actual types of audios that exist in Apex. It's not just all one. Outdoor audio, everything sounds much more open, obviously. Like, I'm going to shoot this wingman. See how it just travels, the sound? I'm going to play indoors. Listen to this. Sounds more muffled, more quiet. The sound, can't escape. See the difference? You see the difference there? I mean, you hear the difference? Outdoor, indoor, outdoor, indoor. So it gets much quieter in here. But here's the issue now. Whenever you cross this line, the game recognizes this building as completely indoor. So even if you're here and you still have this door open, it's completely indoors. Even if you're by the window, there's no, and while you're here, you're not going to hear a little bit of the indoors because the game thinks you're completely outdoors, which is fine, right? But it's a little too jarring. I know right now you might not notice that difference that much because it's not that big of a thing, but once they implement this change, you're probably not going to be able to live without it. So in this next change, you're going to be implementing a thing where there's going to be a little transition period, so it makes the transition much smoother from indoor to outdoor or outdoor to indoor, vice versa. So instead of it completely being outdoors right here and then completely indoors here, there's going to be a transition period, which makes the game play much smoother. This is something that isn't in Apex yet. So once they actually add this, you're going to feel the difference. You're probably going to wondering like, is it going to be that big of a difference? Just wait until it drops and you'll completely feel the difference. You're not going to necessarily hear it, but you'll feel the transition, because in real life, right? When you walk out of a building, it's not going to automatically switch to outdoors. And when you walk in a building, it's not going to completely switch to indoors, right? There's going to be a period where you can kind of hear both sides and it blends beautifully, like a nice gradient on a painting. And this little smooth process, it actually makes the audio much easier to listen to, right? Because your brain isn't swapping between both, sounds or different environments. So what it does, it just makes it more realistic, It makes you have less audio fatigue because it's more seamless, the transition. There's a lot of benefits to this. So, at the end of the day, this is a really, really awesome change that they're adding into Apex. Now, the fifth and last way they're changing audio is called observability. They're actually adding a lot more observability and logging where footsteps actually occur. For example, obviously there's a certain maps and certain areas where the POIs are just that much more hot. Obviously, this is just, let's just call this building Streamer Building back in Fragment, in World's Edge, right? There's going to be 10 people, 20 people in one little building. What happens is that it can lose track of how many people are in one spot at one given time. So what it does, it might forget to log this guy's footsteps. And then you're not going to hear... You might hear the guy down below, but then this guy, when you come up, you're not going to hear him at all. You've ever played in a building and you feel like, you're shooting someone. Okay, at least I one clip that guy. You go up here, this guy's running around doing wall bounces here on you, right? And then he just completely PK'd you in the face. You probably didn't hear that. You're like, where's the audio? Because there's too many people in one single location. Now, visually, I'll bring up a map to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here's E District. And as you can see here, there's a lot of different footstep events, but pay attention to the ones that are in red. The red is where there's a lot of people, like there's just so many people that are in that area at one given time. Some of those audio might be interrupted because, there's too many people in one given spot. Now the yellow is just enough people that sometimes it can disappear. Now there's some spots obviously that no one goes at all. But what you want to pay attention to is that, if you ever go to these POIs, you'll notice sometimes audio doesn't work. The footsteps doesn't work correctly. So now what they're doing, actually they've been doing it since season 25. It's now detecting a high number of canceled footsteps in these given locations. And then what it does, it actually turns down the footsteps that doesn't make sense to log. I mean, obviously there's red spots and not all those people are actually up. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's just say a down guy, right? If this guy's crawling, let's just pretend I'm the down guy. I'm crawling. My footsteps still activate like I'm still an enemy that's not down, right? It doesn't make sense. I don't have my gun out. I'm not a threat anymore, right? But what happens is that little footstep takes space in the game. It's thinking that I'm still, walking around with my gun out ready to fry this guy, but I'm actually down. So my footsteps are unnecessary. It removes those. The less priority, less important sounds get removed from down players. So it only now kind of tracks the actual people that are still, actively up, that are not down. Now I wanted to show you just how much work they've been putting in since season 25. Looking at this graph, April and May, insane. Like, look how many average footsteps were interrupted per player per match. There was so many footsteps that were interrupted because of different things that were occurring, different elements from the game being tracked. But since season 25, the release, they actually removed certain audio that isn't important. Now look, the line went immediately lowered. Since season 25.1, they deprioritized non-important audio footsteps and the audio engine. That brought it down even lower. July, August, we're coasting. September, and then October, November, we get season 27. You're going to feel like the footsteps are actually showing up now. Like it's going to be insane. Like the audio is going to be that much cleaner, that much stronger, and you're going to feel much more confident when you go into your next game. So as you can see, this is going to be the biggest audio update for Apex Legends. So please, please, please get ready for season 27. Thank you again, EA, for providing the content and giving me early access to this update. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribing to the channel. Now, if you are interested in improving in Apex Legends, join my Discord below for further instructions. And if you want to improve right now, click here for more guides by me. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and please never forget, take care.